Tell me again, Commander, what do they see when they close their eyes? Elian didn't look up. His fingers moved across the console, each press sparking data across the hologrid. They see Earth. Burning. Screaming. Just like we did. Outside the observation deck, 1,000 kilometers of shattered rock circled a hollow moon, the last stronghold of free humanity. From this dead celestial husk, the Reclaimer protocol pulsed through the stars, invisible and undetectable. A weapon not of metal or plasma, but of memory. Lieutenant Selene stood behind him, unease etched into every breath. And they're all affected? Every species that signed the vote. Neural symmetry confirmed. Dreams, hallucinations, system-wide cognitive disruptions. All triggered by our mnemonic seeds. She hesitated. This isn't just a message. It's torture. Elian turned. Good. 72 years ago, the Solari Tribunal stripped Earth of sovereignty. They said humans were too volatile, too emotional, too ambitious. In truth, Earth was evolving too fast. Its thinkers had outpaced galactic code. Its people had begun to unify, dangerously so. The tribunal called it preemptive containment. The humans called it enslavement. And now, in a quiet chamber carved into lunar bone, Earth spoke back. Transmission incoming, Selene said, her voice sharp now. It's the Varnali High Priestess. Elian flicked his hand. The grid lit up, casting ghostly reflections. The alien's image hovered, a creature of silken tendrils and glass eyes. Her voice rippled like water over stone. Commander Rhodes. You must end this. Our temples collapse. Our people weep blood in their sleep. We did not understand the depth of your pain. He waited. Silence stretched. Then, quietly, he replied, that was the point. Long ago, Elian had tried the diplomatic path. After the fall, he spent years building alliances from the shadows, smuggling humans off forced labor worlds, establishing neural networks beneath surveillance nets. He believed in redemption. Until they dropped the last Terran refugee colony into a sun. After that, hope became strategy. Mercy became memory. And memory was the sharpest weapon of all. The Reclaimer seed wave just reached the Zelfer Collective, Selene reported. Multiple seizures. Their war council is in full collapse. Elian nodded. Good. Then it's working. You realize what this means? We're rewriting history, not just forcing them to remember it. This thing, it's alive in their minds now. That's the only way they'll ever understand. They didn't care when we begged. So now they'll beg. In a cold corridor of the hollow moon, Elian passed rows of cryopods, each containing what remained of Earth's children. Faces of all races, all ages. Some barely 10 years old. Survivors pulled from the wreckage of colonies, rebellion ships, burned farms. He paused at one pod. A girl with white hair floated inside, breathing slow. Her file read, name, Anya Rhodes. Age, 9, status, post-trauma stasis. His sister. The only family he had left. Her body had survived. Her mind had not. She had watched their mother disintegrate during the final raid on Alara 4. The tribunal called it collateral. Elian called it the day he buried the man he used to be. Back at command, Selene whispered, the Solari Tribunal themselves just opened a diplomatic line. Direct. Elian's jaw clenched. Put them through. The chamber darkened. A single tall figure appeared, blue-skinned, silver-veined, draped in judicial robes. Chancellor Varix Taloran, speaker of the vote that condemned Earth. Commander Rhodes, the Chancellor said, voice smooth and practiced. You are destabilizing the minds of half the Concord. If this continues, galactic infrastructure will collapse. End the protocol, and we will renegotiate Earth's status. We are prepared to discuss limited autonomy. Elian stepped forward. His voice held no tremor. You want to talk now? After 70 years of silence? After the iron mines of Shelter 9? After feeding our children to your bioforges? The Chancellor blinked, the pause stretching just too long. This will end poorly for you. The galaxy will retaliate. No, Chancellor. The galaxy will remember. And if they retaliate, we'll show them the next memory. The image vanished. Celine exhaled hard. He'll rally the Concord. They won't go down without swinging. I know, Elian said. But they're swinging blind now. We've turned their minds against them. That was always our advantage. They enslaved our bodies, but never understood our memory. And memory is infection. He looked out at the stars, voice low. Let them feel our screams in their bones. Let them beg for silence. Even the ones who didn't vote? Celine asked. Guilt doesn't vanish just because it wasn't yours alone. The chamber lights dimmed. A soft ping echoed, a final incoming request. From an unaligned planet. Neutral. Not a member of the Concord. The planet's signal bore an ancient glyph. Human. Old Earth dialect. It translated simply. We've seen what you've done. We remember too. Can we come home? Elian stared at it. A single tear, hot and shameful, rolled down his cheek. Back in the cryo hall, Elian sat beside his sister's pod. Her eyes were closed. Her face peaceful. They're starting to remember, Anya. The stars are screaming now. But not like we did. Not yet. He reached for the activation key on his wrist. The reclaimer wave would reach the Solari homeworld in 6 hours. Unless he stopped it. His fingers hovered. Behind him, Celine stood in the doorway. Quiet. Waiting. The question wasn't whether the galaxy could survive remembering Earth. The question was whether Elian could survive being remembered. The comm room was silent, save for the faint hum of artificial gravity stabilizers. Elian stood at the center, watching the galactic voting archive, footage the tribunal had buried deep in the Concord's core servers. Now decrypted, exposed, bleeding truth. One by one, holographic emblems of 70 species lit up, each marked with the seal of the vote, yeah, Enslave Earth. He watched them all again. The smug tones. The diplomatic shrugs. The arguments dressed in logic. They're emotional. Dangerous. Too creative to control. It wasn't fear of violence, it was fear of unpredictability. Celine entered, her expression pale. The Kalari just declare a truce. They've pulled every warship out of human sectors. They're seeing things, visions of Terran mothers holding ash. Children behind barbed domes. They're calling it the endless cry. Elian's eyes didn't leave the display. That's the third species this week. They'll all break. Eventually. And then what? She asked. They'll bow? Apologize? No, he said quietly. They'll understand. At the edge of Hollow Chain, deep sensors triggered. A single vessel dropped out of slipstream, small, sleek, not military. Civilian registry. It bore no Concord markings. Unknown craft, Celine called out. It's broadcasting old Terran tones. 22nd century Earth band. Analog. Elian raised a brow. Let it through. The vessel docked. From its airlock stepped a girl no older than 20. She wore a weather jacket with an Earth flag patched on the sleeve. Her eyes held the sharpness of someone who'd seen too much too young. I'm Lisa Verdon, she said. My people, what's left of them, escaped before the vote. We were a fringe colony. Neutral. But the visions reached us anyway. He studied her carefully. And? They're not visions, she said. They're messages. Woven emotion. And they've changed us. People who never knew pain now wake up sobbing. Others scream in languages they've never spoken. Elian nodded. That's the memory net. It doesn't just show, it imprints. Layer by layer. Feeling by feeling. Until they live what we lived. Lisa took a shaky breath. I didn't come to stop you. I came to ask, what happens after? Elian didn't have an answer. Not yet. The Reclaimer Protocol had always been step one. The reckoning. But peace? There were no plans drawn up for that. Only silence. Maybe ruins. Celine approached him later in the war chamber. You're changing. Am I? You didn't kill her. Didn't even scan her for threats. She wasn't one. That's never stopped you before. He didn't answer. Across the Concord, cracks widened. The Filari, once loyal enforcers of the tribunal, disbanded entirely. Their commanders were found curled in fetal positions, whispering apologies in Terran dialects they couldn't possibly know. Their ships floated adrift, unshelled, crews unreachable. The Urkel matriarch, who once called humans flesh with delusions, sent a plea encoded in ancient mourning chants. Her people had torn their own temples down, not from madness, but guilt. The Reclaimer was a virus of truth. It didn't need to kill. It let empathy do the damage. A meeting of the last surviving tribunal members took place in secret. But nothing stayed secret anymore. Through captured surveillance, Elian watched them argue. They must be stopped. It's too late, it's in the mind stream. They'll erase us. No. They want us to remember. Varix Taloran stood silent as his peers bickered. Then he spoke. We made a mistake. But no species, no matter how wronged, should wield this power unchecked. His voice trembled, not from fear, but something rarer, uncertainty. For the first time, he doubted himself. Elian turned off the feed. Later, in a private corridor, Celine found him sitting on the cold metal floor. No weapons. No datapads. Just a man, tired. She sat beside him. You once told me we'd never show weakness. I remember. You're showing it now. I know. She looked at him, not as a soldier, but as a friend. You built something unstoppable. The galaxy is bending. And now it's not enough? It's never been about enough, he said, voice low. It's about why. And I think I forgot that somewhere along the way. Then remember. The next day, Elian did something no one expected. He halted the next Reclaimer pulse. Not forever, just one cycle. The tribunal noticed. They sent a message, not through encrypted channels, not through diplomatic drones. But through a physical emissary. Alone. Unarmed. The door opened. A tall, ancient creature stepped in. Skin like quartz, voice like broken glass. I am Varix Taloran. I come without guards. I come to speak. Elian stared. Speak, then. Varix didn't beg. He didn't offer terms. He simply told the truth. We thought your kind was dangerous because we couldn't predict you. Because you felt too deeply. We were wrong. What we feared was your capacity to remember. And to make us remember. That is the power we never understood. Elian didn't respond. Varix continued. End it. Not for us. For you. For what's left of your people. If you teach us only fear, we'll learn nothing. But if you show us mercy, we'll never forget that either. That night, Elian sat alone with the final activation key. One press, and the last wave would hit the tribunal homeworld. He opened the console. A prompt blinked. Execute final sequence. His thumb hovered. Then paused. Another message blinked in. This one from a distant Terran colony, off-grid, refugee-built. They'd received the first memory wave weeks ago. The message read. We cry every night. But we also remember what we were. And what we can be again. Let them remember too, but don't let it be the last thing they feel from us. Elian closed his eyes. Not mercy. Not revenge. Something older. Something harder. Justice. He lifted his hand, and shut down the sequence. The moon base trembled as the final fleet arrived. Not Concord warships. Not invaders. Refugees. Vessels limping through deep space, some without shields, others held together by desperation. They bore the markings of species that once sat on the tribunal. Now, they begged for asylum from the very minds they had shattered. Elian stood at the edge of the hangar bay, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the incoming ships. They used to send war barges, he said. Now they arrive in rescue crafts, asking to forget what they once demanded we endure. Celine stood beside him. The transmissions are pouring in. Their leaders are broken. Not just scared, shaken. Some are offering reparations. Others just want the voices to stop. They won't, he murmured. Not unless we let them go. She turned toward him. And are we going to? Elian didn't answer. The reclaimer was irreversible. At least, that's what he had always told himself. But in truth, there was a failsafe, a tethered thread in the protocol, one final override key that would nullify the mnemonic storm and let the affected minds begin healing. It had never been part of the plan. It had been built in secret. By Elian. Alone. A safeguard he swore he'd never use. Until now. He entered the silent chamber that housed the core. A spherical node hung suspended in a chamber of obsidian alloy, glowing with a pulse like a heartbeat. The override key hovered above it. It wasn't a button. It was a decision. One press, and the torment would cease. The screams would fade. The memories would remain, but without the pain that had made them unbearable. He lifted his hand. Behind him, a voice said, "You'll lose your leverage." He turned. Varric stood in the shadows. The Chancellor looked older now. Not physically, but in the way he carried his shame. "We've seen enough," Varric said quietly. "You haven't seen half," Elian replied. "That may be true. But if we're still standing here talking, then maybe there's something left worth preserving." Elian clenched his fists. "You burned our skies. You called our grief a threat. You took our children, turned them into machines. You stripped Earth of its soul." Varric didn't deny it. "And now we remember it all. Every waking moment." Silence. "I'm not here to ask for forgiveness," the Chancellor continued. "I came to see if you still believe we're worth saving." Elian's voice was cold. "I don't." Then softer. "But maybe she does." He returned to the cryo-wing. Anya still floated peacefully in her stasis pod. Her vitals stable. Her mind locked in the moment of loss, untouched by what had followed. She hadn't seen vengeance. Only the beginning of pain. "Everything I've done," Elian whispered, "was for you. For the ones they silenced." His hand hovered over the pod's manual release. A choice. Let her wake in a world that continued to scream, or in one where the screams had quieted. He turned back toward the core chamber. The override initiated. Across the stars, silence fell. One by one, alien minds lifted from the fog. The visions didn't vanish, but the burning faded. The grief settled. A wound remained, but now it could scar. Not rot. Celine watched the console. "They're stabilizing. All of them. Even the ones who said they couldn't take another cycle." Elian didn't speak. "You just ended it," she whispered. "Without a demand. Without revenge." "I didn't end anything," he said. "I rewrote the ending." A broadcast went out from Holochain, not a threat, not a warning. A message. "You voted to enslave us. We rose without permission. We remembered while you slept. And when you finally saw what we endured, we stopped. Not because you deserved it. Because we couldn't become what you feared." The message echoed in every major system. Some wept. Some knelt. Some simply listened, finally. Weeks passed. Earth's remnants were no longer fugitives. Worlds that once spat on Terrans now hosted them with reverence. Human music played on Thalari towers. Children on Varnali sang in Terran languages they'd only just learned. Across the galaxy, the trauma became a shared history, never forgotten, no longer weaponized. And Elian? He didn't celebrate. He disappeared from the hollow chain quietly. Left no forwarding signal. No rank. No command. Celine found his final message in the archive, encoded only for her. If memory is the sharpest weapon, then mercy is the only shield. Let them carry both. And if they forget again, remind them gently first. 10 years later, a statue stood in Earth's new capital, not of a soldier, not of a weapon. A child. Hair white. Eyes closed in stasis. Hands outstretched to the stars. And below it, a plaque. We remembered. And then, we chose to forgive. The old road to Earth's new capital wound through what used to be ash. Now, it bloomed. Fields of Terran grass bent gently in the wind, restored by biotechnicians from former enemy species, those who once swore humans could never rebuild. The city in the distance shimmered, not with weapons, but with culture, music from 10 worlds, architecture blended across 100 species, and above it all, a monument. The child with white hair. Anya. Statues were built for heroes. But this one, Elian had said before vanishing, was for the Y. Celine walked through the avenue toward the statue, a worn satchel on her shoulder and silence in her footsteps. 10 years had passed since the last pulse. She now served as Earth's ambassador, though she despised the title. It was diplomacy built on memories that never left her. A child ran past her, laughing. Not just Terran, part Kalari. Behind him, his father smiled, adjusting a translator chip behind his ear. The family moved on, unaware of the woman watching. Celine blinked, exhaled, and continued walking. In a secluded wing of the Unity archive, sealed to the public, sat a chair. Simple. Steel. It was positioned before a console that hadn't been activated in a decade. Only 2 people had the encryption key. One was lost in the stars. The other stood before it now. Celine placed her palm on the pad. The console flickered, then warmed to life. The voice came through. Not a recording, an AI imprint, built from Elian's neural map. Celine, it said, calm as ever. If you're hearing this, I suppose you kept your promise. She smiled faintly. You knew I would. The AI, called Rhodes Echo, wasn't a simulation. It didn't pretend to be him. But it remembered like him. Thought like him. Enough that when decisions arose the world wasn't ready for, she could ask. What would Elian have done? Today, she didn't come for guidance. She came for closure. The last vote is tomorrow, she said aloud. The Concord wants Earth to join as a full member. The voice didn't react. They're offering everything. Equal voice. Open access. No hierarchy. Still silence. But they're asking us to erase the memorial archive. The reclaimer data. Every file, every memory. They call it closure. Now the echo spoke. Closure isn't deletion. It's remembrance without pain. Do you think we've earned that yet? She asked. No, the voice replied. But maybe they have. That night, under the statue's shadow, Celine sat with a group of children. A teaching circle. Not a formality, just stories. They asked about the time before. About the hollow chain. About the voice that made the stars cry. One child, a boy with 4 fingers and scaled arms, asked, did the humans win? Celine tilted her head. We remembered first. But you didn't fight? We did. Just not how you think. Not with guns. Not with ships. The boy thought. Then who lost? She paused. Those who forgot what it means to feel. The children were quiet. One by one, they nodded. The boy whispered, I still hear the songs sometimes. The sad ones. You will, she said. But they'll teach you how to listen. The next morning, the Concord Council gathered on Earth's soil. Species once terrified of human emotion now sat shoulder to shoulder with former enemies. The vote was ceremonial. But its condition, the deletion, was not. Celine stood at the podium, face calm, voice steady. Earth will not erase the archive, she said plainly. Murmurs stirred. We do not preserve it out of vengeance. We preserve it to prevent silence. We are not proud of the pain. But we're proud we survived it. She paused. If we must choose between being accepted and being forgotten, we will always choose memory. There was no vote. Just silence. Then, from the oldest matriarch of the Zelfer, a soft nod. Then we choose with you. The others followed. No conditions. Earth was admitted. Not by forgetting. But by remembering together. Later that evening, Celine walked alone through the city. The stars above shimmered clear. For the first time, no warships circled Earth. A small transmission blinked on her wrist pad. Unidentified source. No location. A single line of text. She's awake. Her breath caught. She ran. In the cryo wing, the lights had dimmed to blue. A soft alarm pulsed, one never heard before. Pod number 7. Anya Rhodes. Her vitals surged. The stasis fluid receded. The glass lifted. The child opened her eyes. Not frightened. Just curious. Celine dropped to her knees. Anya looked around. Where's my brother? Tears slid down Celine's face. She smiled. He made sure the stars could never hurt you again. Anya blinked. I had a dream, she whispered. But it was someone else's. Celine leaned in. That's how it works now. The girl nodded, then reached forward. And in that simple gesture, after all the wars, all the screams, all the memory, Earth was whole again.